Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about The Flash and Grant Gustin's big interview. Now this is a great interview. It's probably the biggest one he's done since he finished The Flash. And I want to break it down because it talks about a lot of interesting stuff. He talks about his time shooting The Flash. He talks about the casting process when he was first auditioning to do the show. And he also talks about like how he progressed over the years in terms of like the different looks and how his fitness was. And so this is like one big article that I really recommend you guys read. Now, I'm going to leave the link in the description below so you can go check it out after this video. But for now, if you do go on to enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so this is coming from Men's Health. Grant sat down with them and the title of the article is Grant Gustin used to be the fastest man alive. He's finally learning to slow down. So this is how it goes. Grant Gustin may have played a superhero on TV for more than 180 episodes, but he didn't always feel like one. Known for his role as Barry Allen, the born name of The Flash, DC's Scarlet Speedster who's been jetting through comic book pages since 1940, Gustin would seem to be the perfect fit to be featured in the pages of Men's Health. So just for some context, the reason that they talk about his exercise regimes and his mental and physical health is because that is kind of what Men's Health is all about, even though that's not the be all and end all of this article. It's not just all about that, it just plays a factor. So this is just like your normal interview but with like a health aspect to it. So he was embarrassed of his size according to Men's Health, clearly describing himself as pretty skinny at the start of the series in 2013. That led to production hiring both a trainer and sprint coach. Even if you're not actually breaking the sound barrier, convincing running form is still of the utmost importance. Clearly Ezra Miller didn't take notes and didn't have any trainers for the running, but unfortunately the 16-hour workdays led to exhaustion whilst he was shooting The Flash, which sent him in the complete opposite direction of what a bulked up superhero fit for a fitness publication would expectedly look like. He said, "My ass was getting kicked," in regards to his body's devolution. And so before later going on to explain why he feels the confidence he lacked over a decade ago when he started filming The Flash, he said, "I just stopped working out and got thinner and thinner for those first 5 seasons, which obviously if you look back at photos, I guess you can get a glimpse into that, and I reckon Grant has done that and kind of assessed his kind of physical appearance over the course of his time on The Flash." And so let's go on to talk about the quotes. Now this is going to be like a big chunk of quotes, so bear with me guys as we go through this, but I think it's all really fascinating, so you're going to want to stay until the end of the video, I promise you. And I'm going to be flashing some photos that they have done with Grant in New York just recently. So "I didn't take good care of myself," he says. "I wasn't managing my anxiety and stress well. I was just working really hard." So he ended up finding inspiration in the pandemic in 2020, and that's where he started to bulk up and he started to go to the gym a lot. He said, "I started exercising a lot between seasons. I put on 20 pounds of muscle just because I had time to work out. Since then, it's been 4 years. So we're at 2024 now. So he started properly working out in 2020. And I think that was physically seen in his appearance post-pandemic, because it's true, he definitely got more bulky. And obviously at first when you get more bulky, it doesn't necessarily show in terms of muscle, but now he's looking really good in 2024. And so it just takes a lot of time for your body to like recompose, because he was, as he proclaims, quite skinny when he started and those first 5 seasons. And so yeah, stuff really started to change for him and he's at like a very good place now. And so what is said next is, "In the time since then, Gustin has had a daughter, and he's now traded his heroics for a life on Broadway, his big debut as a character in the Tony-nominated musical adaptation of Water for Elephants, which he is currently doing on Broadway right now. And even though he's not there this week because he's been ill, he is there and he's going to be there for a long time. He's done a lot of performances already, and so apparently it's an exciting, demanding, slightly repetitive job that involves 8 shows a week. that's just the life of a Broadway star. But while the idea of messing up is not only uncomfortable for Gustin, it helps light a fire in him every night. So that's a little bit of an insight into what's been going on right now. And so he's always living on the edge, as he says, because you're so vulnerable on the stage. The medium isn't as important to me as being drawn to the character. It's one of the reasons I wanted to do this. It was not only good for me as an actor, but for my continued growth as a person. And so let's chat a little bit about The Flash now, guys. I'm going to skip forward and get to some of the questions regarding The Flash specifically. So the first question is, when you were cast as The Flash, were there any thoughts of, I don't know if I want this to be my legacy? So Grant replies, it never crossed my mind. I mean, I was 23 when I auditioned for that show and thought I had no chance of getting it. And you have to remember, guys, he's just been off the back of Glee, which is like his first big role. And I guess at this point he was just auditioning a lot and searching for something to make money, make a name for yourself so you can get consistent roles in the future and live a good life, which I think Grant definitely found with The Flash. And he was young when he did it, but he thought he had no chance of getting it. And then he goes on to say, I didn't even want to go to the audition. I was like, this is a waste of my time and their time. In the breakdown, it said he was in his late 20s to early 30s. Obviously, Grant was 23 at the time. So he felt like he didn't fit the bill for what the casting audition description was, basically. And so he's big and buff and blonde in the comics. And I was just like, why are they even seeing me? I had imposter syndrome about even going to that audition. The idea of, do I want this? Never crossed my mind. And I think that's because he was just like looking for the next thing. And obviously, if he wanted it, he would get it. And, you know, he would figure out like, do I like this or not? And obviously he figured out by the end of the show, he really liked it. And he's definitely got that strong connection with The Flash, more so than like maybe some other roles he's done. And so it goes on to say that was similar for doing Water for Elephants now, but getting to play a superhero someday wasn't even something I could have dreamed. And I really understand this. Like, I think it's just the natural way to go about it. I don't think anyone's thinking about their legacy at 23. I don't think you're going into your next job being like, this is going to be the job that defines my career as an actor or as a filmmaker or whatever you're doing in life. So his answer here is very truthful, and I like that he gives that perspective to us Flash fans, that he went in it feeling like an imposter, like he didn't think he fit the role because he wasn't blonde, he wasn't massively buff. And so in regards to the next question, this is the question: we've touched upon the physicality of the roles you played. From the mental aspect, how do you beat the monotony? Water for Elephants can be different every night on that stage, but how do you get past the I'm tired of doing this thought? So Grant replies, The Flash was the coolest job in the world, and Water for Elephants is a dream come true, but I've done 55 to 56 performances now when they did this interview, and it does get boring. He's being completely honest here, and I think that's true. Like, imagine doing the same show or saying the same things, dancing, singing the same songs on repeat twice a day, 4 or 5 days a week. Like, that is really repetitive, and he's been doing it for weeks now, and that's why he's at like 55 to 56 performances. And he says, and playing The Flash, I did over 180 episodes plus crossovers, so over 200 episodes of The Flash, and there were days I didn't want to be doing it. And I have to be honest, I really like his honesty here, because I think as an actor, and me myself as a filmmaker, I've been on shoots that are long, you know, night shoots, 3 weeks in a row. It's very tiring, but if you like what you do, you'll get through that experience and you'll look back at it in a positive way. And definitely he's thought back at it as a really positive thing. Like, he's made a good amount of money, he's made a name for himself, he's set up his family for life. I mean, what's not to like about that? And yeah, you might not want to be doing it on the nights or in the daytime shoots when you're shooting long hours all day, every day, like 6 days a week. Like, you guys have to remember, they had a grueling schedule for The Flash. I would say it's maybe even arguably worse than doing Broadway, just because of the sheer amount of episodes and the sheer amount of time that they spent shooting The Flash. And, you know, the hours are insane. But Grant goes on to say, but there were many days also when I was acutely aware of how much fun it was and how lucky I was. And, you know, that is very important here, because one thing I was good at was reminding myself during the last few seasons of The Flash, knowing I was closer to the end than the beginning, was focusing a bit on the micro too, where it's like, I laugh every day, I'm smiling and having fun with friends every day, I'm putting on a superhero suit on every day, regardless of how uncomfortable it can be. I was better at focusing on the little things that made me happy, and it's easier right now with this because I'm only doing this for a short period of time, and I better enjoy it whilst it's happening because I'm going to look back on it and miss it. I'm older, more mature, and can appreciate things differently now. So I think that perspective of time is really important, and I like the way that he actually approached The Flash in its final few seasons, because it was pretty clear with the amount of posts he was doing and just the way that he talked about the show that he realized it was coming to an end fairly soon, even at the point maybe in like season 7 where he didn't know when the end would come on The Flash. He did realize, I'm closer to the end than the beginning, so when I'm not doing this anymore, I've got to appreciate it whilst I've got this little time left. And the same thing goes for his Broadway show, because he's obviously not going to do that show forever, and it's just like a short period of time for actors on Broadway. Like, they stay for maybe a year max. I mean, some people stay longer, some people stay shorter than that, so I guess he's got some sort of contract. I would reckon it's like a 6 months to a year contract. But yeah, now with him being older, more mature, I really appreciate him coming out and being so honest about all of this. And so we got a big reveal and a big question here, because this is something that Grant has been asked over the last year since The Flash ended. And so the question is, are the doors closed for any characters you played before? Is signing a multi-year contract too much of a commitment now with other projects you're looking to play in the future? I know every outlet is picking up on your innocent DMs with James Gunn. Grant replies, look, there are no doors right now that are slammed shut for me in any capacity, and that's why I said what I said about James Gunn the other day. And so I love the Guardians movies, I love what he's done, but the soundbite that's getting picked up everywhere, and then they interject by saying it was talking as a fan about Superman. And Grant continues by saying, yeah, I fell in love with Superman because of Christopher Reeve. I loved those movies as a kid and have remained a Superman fan my whole life because of those movies. When Brandon Routh was Superman in Superman Returns, I was 16 and I had just gotten my driver's license. I drove to the midnight premiere to see him with Superman insignias on my car in chalk. I don't know if he was already following me or not, but I just DM'd him, and he's talking about James Gunn here, and said, I can't wait to see what you do with that. So he just hit me back up. And then, yeah, he said he thought I was talented and said that he'd love to work with me someday, which is a very general, nice thing to say, but there was nothing else that was said. There was no contract, I'm guessing, and Grant said, yeah, that did not happen, and I don't know what's the next chapter in my career. I have a family and I have a second kid along the way. I have stuff to take care of. And so let's go back and see what he actually said and break this down. So in regards to doors being completely shut, specifically talking about The Flash, Grant confirms once again, as he said recently, that no doors are slammed shut for him in any capacity, and he's open to returning to his past projects. I guess you could include Glee in that, but more specifically he's talking about The Flash, and he talks about James Gunn and the DMs that they exchanged a while ago. I'm not going to drone on about that because I have made separate videos talking about what Grant and James Gunn and their interaction looked like. But yeah, nothing is set right now, but those doors aren't shut, and Grant has confirmed this. Also, I just want to pick up on the fact that he was 16 when he watched Superman Returns, and he watched Brandon Routh, and he drove up to the midnight premiere to see him in that film with Superman insignias on his car in chalk. I just think that's so amazing. Just the fact that he is a Superman fan, the fact that Brandon Routh and him would later work together many times on The Flash and in the crossovers. Obviously Brandon played the Atom, he played Ray Palmer in the Arrowverse, and obviously Grant played Barry Allen, The Flash, and you know, that's just funny how life works, and he ended up working with, you know, a Superman that he really admired as a teenager, as a 16-year-old, and to be honest, they're not that much different in age. Like, they're 10 years different. That's like kind of me and Grant. We're like 10 years apart He's roughly 10 years older than me, and Brandon was 10 years older than him. And it's just like the way that maybe some of you guys who are around my age, early 20s, like I'm 23 right now, I've watched Grant since I was 16. You know, it's a similar thing. It's that admiration that you have for certain actors who have played these big roles that you really like, just like Grant playing The Flash. And so the next question is, with this type of career, how do you get comfortable with failure? So Grant replies, comfort isn't something I'm necessarily drawn to, and now making myself a little uncomfortable is something I kind of actively seek. It was one of the reasons I wanted to do Water for Elephants, his Broadway show. He says, I knew I wanted to get on the stage, and obviously this is in the context of finishing The Flash, thinking, what is his next project? Well, he's going to work on Broadway because that's been a dream of his, and now he's doing 8 shows a week for a very extended period of time, and you know you're going to make those mistakes, and you're going to fuck up, as Grant says. And I like that he's being so honest here that he is willing to swear in an interview. And so yeah, he has confirmed he's doing it for a very extended period of time, so I presume that is probably a year. That's just my presumption from this. And he goes on to talk about Hugh Jackman and how he was doing Broadway at the same time in The Boy from Oz, which he saw, and then he also saw him in Wolverine. And so he's doing these 2 completely polar opposite characters, and he was incredible. So Grant, in that same vein, says, I want to get to do it all. I want to do musicals on Broadways and plays on Broadways, big studio films, indies and TV. I hope I'm lucky enough to have a fraction of the career that Hugh Jackman has had, and I want to hopefully do it all until the day I die. So there you have it. That is Grant's declaration that he wants to act until the day he dies. He wants to do big studio films, he wants to get into indie films, he wants to do TV, he wants to do Broadway and other types of Broadway shows. So I love that. I love that aspiration. I love that he's willing to do any type of project, and I really hope to see him, and I hope I'm there to support him when he does his big studio films, or he does his new TV shows, his new indies. I want to see all of those, and I'm sure you guys in the comments who are Grant fans and are Flash fans, you completely agree with me that, you know, this is what we want to see. We want to see as much Grant as possible, and to be honest, it's a big regret that I can't go to Broadway and see him. Like, hopefully, if I get some extra money in the next year, I would love to visit him in New York and see his show, but we'll have to wait and see if that happens later in the year. That is something that I hope, but I just don't know how long he's going to stay in Broadway and in that specific show for. And so let's chat a little bit more about Grant's personal life, and this is the question they asked. You recently said Jesse L. Martin, your former Flash co-star and Broadway veteran, called and said, I bet you got a 6-pack right now, man. Broadway gives you a 6-pack. Without lifting your shirt, is there any validity to the Broadway 6-pack? What's your fitness routine look like right now? Grant replies, at home my routine is my daughter goes to sleep at 7:30 to 8, and then when I'm not working, that's when I get in bed, or we watch a movie or read or whatever, and I'm asleep by 10 p.m. at night. A lot of times I wake up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning to be awake for a couple of hours by myself. I'll either work out or play video games just to do something for me. I haven't been able to actually do that since I've been here in New York City, because I was just too physically tired after the shows, and also realized that sleep was going to be really important for my vocal quality, talking about the fact that he has to sing every night, twice a day, and many days in a week. So just for 2 months I had to be like, I'm not going to work out, I just can't. I was like, alright, well, I'm going to prioritize my family, my mental health, my vocal health, and I just can't work out right now. But since the show opened on Broadway, I'm now back working out 3 or 4 days a week, 5 or 6 is my goal, but I have just had to go easy on myself and be okay that maybe some weeks I'm not going to be going to the gym all the time, and it's just going to be 1, 2 or 3. So that's Grant's workout routine. That is his life in between the Broadway shows. It's a very grueling existence. We all know that. We've seen Melissa go on Broadway before. Like, you are just working non-stop, and the time that you've got off, I guess that's just recovering a lot. But let's move on to the final question. So the final question is, we've covered a lot. You've been a big time superhero, you're a leader on Broadway. Instead of asking what's next, I'm curious if there's a point where you'll feel content. Grant said, oh, never. Not to an unhealthy degree, but Andrew Garfield is one of my favorite actors, and I saw him say something along those lines recently. He'll never be content. I don't want to butcher what he said, but he thinks it's okay, because that's also what keeps him going as an actor and what pushes him, and I feel that. And I didn't know if I'd ever feel content or the type of comfort I feel now with my family. I mean, your heart's also outside of your body, as they say, which is true. The Flash wasn't even something that I could have dreamed of, and now I'm doing something that very much was my dream. That's what I reminded myself. It's like, look, if I've been able to do the things I've already done, who's to say I can't be capable of doing the other things that I dream of doing someday? Why not believe I'm capable? So Grant's final answer is, I don't know if I'll ever be fully content, but I think that's an okay answer to have. And so that is the end of the interview. That is a great interview by Men's Health. Now you can go check out the interview in the link in the description below. Hopefully I did a good job breaking it down, talking about the Flash specifically, but also talking about what Grant is like right now and his life post-Flash, which I think is very important if you're a fan of him, just to get a kind of glimpse into his life. But yeah, that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. It would really help this video get out there. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see red.